Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 16.
Or 15, part 2.
Or goal setting, part 3.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my god, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Welcome back to Small Biz Life. And we decided that as a Christmas gift to all our listeners, we would do episode 16 and 15 and release them in the same week.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're getting a bonus episode for Christmas.
Well, I think the way to think about it too is because of the holidays, it gives you a little bit more flexibility to listen to the next two episodes, which are important, but you can get them out of the way when you have the opportunity. And after Christmas Day is done and you've woken up from the food coma, hopefully, you can get right into making the goals for next year before you get to next year. That's
right. So instead of taking the week off for the holidays, because in our house, there are 3 holidays in 1 week. Because in our house, there are actually 3 holidays that week. There is Christmas, there is New Year's, and in between the two...
It's Christmas.
Why is that so funny?
It has nothing to do with the day. The day is my favorite day of the year. It is the day my lovely wife was born, on the 27th of December.
Which is why we call it Christmas.
The year of our Lord, 1979.
So that is a very busy week for us. And so we thought we'd do episode 16 to piggyback off of 15 and release them together.
Well, Merry Christmas to each and every one of us.
That's awesome. So, all right. So if you haven't listened to episode 14 and 15, you're going to want to do that before you listen to episode 16, because episode 16 is really the third part in our goal setting series. Episode 14 was all about SWOT analysis, figuring out your strengths and weaknesses internally, and then the opportunities and threats externally. In episode 15, we talked about how to make your goal SMART, by incorporating specific goals that are measurable, that are action-oriented, that are realistic, but stretch you to your limit, and that are time-specific.
And for all of those of you who think people from Boston actually say an H in SMART, they do not.
No, that's the R. SMART. The goals are SMART. Okay, so this episode...
Does that make it healistic?
No. It's at the end of the word.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm a Midwestern heathen, so...
It's not the first ah, it's the last ah. Like smart or car.
Excellent.
But you say realistic.
It's realistic.
It's realistic.
That's my American accent. That's really wonderful for you to really say smart like that. It's really, really great.
Maybe we shouldn't be doing 2 episodes today. The insanity meter has kind of gone off the chart. So bear with us, because this episode might be a little goofy. As you're setting your goals, there is one last component that I want you to think about. I want you to think about your why and your how.
And let's be clear on this. Whenever you're making a goal, what you're really doing is, do you remember when you were in school and they talked about writing an article or a paper on something? You wanted to talk about the who, what, why, when, how of something when you want to describe it. You want all of those for the goals, but why and how are exceptionally important.
the way that I like to think about these is that I use why to bring my goals up, right? To make sure that I'm using the highest possible goal that I can. And when I set goals, I have primary goals and secondary goals. Okay. So we're going to use why to kind of ratchet up the goal until, it's kind of like a 2-year-old, right? They keep asking why until the point that you can't answer it anymore. Right. And that's what we're trying to do.
Or if you're in a group where they, like a mastermind or some other group where you get into these kind of activities, the thing that you're going to, find out is if there's a good group going on, they're going to ask you, well, why do you want to do that? Or they're going to say your goal's not big enough is probably what they're going to say.
Right.
And I know for the people who were brave enough to put up their opportunities, they were told that a lot in the group. Because goals are usually going to be based off of opportunities.
So we're going to use why to ratchet up, and then we're going to use how to kind of ratchet back down and come up with those sub goals, okay, that are going to help you achieve that big goal.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at an example of a goal that we see a lot. Okay. I want to gain 5,000 Twitter followers by September 30th.
Yes.
Okay, so why do you want to do that?
Because I need followers.
Why?
Well, because if I get more followers, then I think that I will sell more of my product X.
Okay. So your goal should really be about generating sales of product X. Right? That's really the goal. That is the end game, right? Is to generate sales in product X.
Oh, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah.
Okay. So see, you keep asking why, right? Until you get up to that point where you're like, okay, there's the big goal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. To generate sales of product X. And so remember, we said that the goal must be measurable, right? So you're going to want to put a number of items that you plan to sell, right? So maybe your goal is to sell 1,000 units of your product.
Yeah.
That's measurable. Time specific. So we got to pick a date by which you want to do that. Okay. So we'll say September 30th.
Sure.
Okay. That is your, right? That's your top line goal. You probably want to have 3 to 4 of those top line goals. Okay. And I'd recommend that one of those 3 to 4 is personal. Something having to do with self-care is a great one to do. Okay. So 3 to 4 of those top line goals. So now that we have we have that top line goal, now let's start asking ourselves how. So how are you going to sell 1,000 units of your product?
I'm going to put it up in Facebook groups and hope that people share it out to their friends and buy it.
How?
By sharing it in Facebook groups.
Oh, how are you going to share in Facebook groups?
As a post.
Okay. And how are you going to do that? Are you going to have it like regularly scheduled? Are you going to bombard all the Facebook groups that you might start banning you because of that? Might not be a good way to sell your book. So you've got to think about what's allowed, right, in those groups. Maybe you're in a group that they let you post every Tuesday, so you're going to want to make sure that you've got the copy written maybe every Monday morning, right? Yeah. You write the copy so you're not using the same language every time. So, okay, so you've got one goal is every Monday, you're going to write up the content that you are going to use in each of those groups that you're allowed to post in. Okay. So there's one goal. Okay. So how else are you going to sell 1,000 copies of 1,000 units of your product?
I'm going to send out an email newsletter.
Okay. And how are you going to do that?
By using Aweber.
Okay. What type of content are you going to put in that newsletter? Are you just going to like sell?
Please buy. Please. More of a beg.
I'm going to beg for sales in my emails. Okay. So
I'm desperate. Please give me money by buying my book.
Yeah, that's probably not going to work either. No, probably not. When you're talking about your email list, right? I like the consistency, like every week, right? I'm going to beg my list to buy, but that's probably not going to generate a lot of sales. So you want to think about what type of content that you can put out, right? So, a lot of list building, a lot of social media building is about consistency.
Yes.
So you might want to have sub goals about building consistency in and not selling all the time.
John Acuff is very good at that, where he's not one of those people who's trying to maximize his revenue from his list because he's reserving it for when he's releasing his books. And he might talk about other stuff. And I'm not sure if I've ever seen him, be a JV for someone, or maybe he has, and I don't know. He's talked about other people's before, but I don't feel like he's ever pushed me. Where you go to some lists, and some do it very well, and some don't do it very well. And part of it too, I think it's the avatar on your list and what you do for them, the amount you can get away with it. Someone who helps you build your platform can get away with it a lot more because there are a lot of bits and pieces to that. But, especially I think more for your fictional people, like me, the made up people, it's harder because there's no real value proposition on my item outside of I want to take 4 hours of your life to read my book and to hopefully bring you joy in that time. But knowing the value proposition of what you're having is, because there is always some kind of value proposition, and knowing your audience to say, one, what is their tolerance? And two, do I need to try and do those kind of things? Because some people come off sleazy because of the way they're like, I sent out 3 emails this week, and normally I send out 1, and they're all about buying stuff. And none of it's my stuff. And then, finally, by the time they get around to selling their stuff, they've just, alienated their audience who's no longer opening their emails anymore.
Right. And that's a big thing that I see from a lot of people I talk to, is that they say, I have an email list, that's pretty good size, but they're not opening the emails. Well, then you might as well have a really small email list, right? Yeah. Because the people who don't open your emails, they don't really count.
No.
So...
And they hurt, actually.
Right, it does. It actually hurts the deliverability of your emails if people aren't opening them. So you might want to think about what types of content can I share, with the people on my email list that's not constantly selling to them. You can put an ad at the bottom, of every email for your products, but provide great content.
And not everyone who's successful with their lists do emails weekly.
Right.
I think like Tim Graw, I get 1 a month from him. Now someone like Chandler Bolt does it a couple times a week. He's very clever with his, though. His always feel like he's talking to you, and he's still trying to sell me stuff, and I know it, but he does it well. I don't know why.
Conversational selling.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing you want to do is when you set your big goal, is ask yourself, okay, how am I going to do that? Okay, well, how, and keep asking how, right? Until you get to actionable items.
Because realistically, if you're trying to increase your sales, especially if it's by a large margin, the likelihood that you can do it strictly through viral content, unless you have a history of creating viral content, is probably slim.
Right.
What kind of actual marketing am I going to do? And maybe it's not paid marketing. Maybe it's hustling. I'm going to contact 10 blogs a week and see if I can put up content, or I'm going to look for 10 really big ones. And then any other ones I see along the way, I'll have a form letter I send to ask. But I'm going to really focus on these 10 and really try and get onto their blog in front of their audience.
One of the opportunities and threats that when I was going through doing my SWOT analysis is, there's all these small business owners. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, if I want to grow this show, right, or I want to grow one of my other websites, I have to figure out where my ideal customer is hanging out, right? Where can I find them?
Yes.
And then one of my weaknesses is I'm pretty terrible at promoting myself.
Yes. You're horrible.
I'm really bad at this. Like, I will help people all day, and that's kind of how I promote myself, right? Because at the end, I'm like, hey, you should listen to my podcast. But that's like one, that's like one person, right? Or that's the people that are like following a post.
That's not what they would call scalable.
Yeah, it's not really scalable. So one of my goals for this year is to identify 5 different places where my ideal customer hangs out online and find 2 ways that I can engage with them in each of those 5 places.
Okay.
Now, I might not end up actively engaging in all 10 of those items that come out of that list, but, I'll pick maybe 3 or 4 that, are good ways to engage. And the nice thing with having a list of 10 is that if I'm engaging in 3 or 4 and 2 of them aren't making any traction, I have more on the list.
Most definitely, yeah.
Right? So I have more things that I can go towards.
And it also gets to, and this is something I'm not great at because it's just something that really interests me that much. But, they call it A/B testing, which is, this idea that when you release content, especially the larger of a list you have, I think the more useful it becomes, where you can tweak very minor things, headlines, colors of the call to action, those kind of actions to see what gets you the best response from the people you do have as well.
Right. When you're doing your sub goals, you probably want to have, maybe 3 sub goals for every major goal you have, right? So then you're talking about 3 to 4 main goals for the year, and then, 3 sub goals for each one.
I have a bonus thing.
Okay.
Now this is, and I completely thank Jamie Tardy for this. She's a wonderful course. If you're starting to make money on the internet, I couldn't give a bigger recommendation than her course because she's really going to force you to hustle. But one of the big things that she would do is every week you need 5 action items. And which I found out because I was using an action in a different term and it confused my wife because I was talking about something else. But it's the idea that on your to-do list every week, there are 5 things that push you towards your goals. And that's not to say you can't get other things done. And that's not to say you can't, that you might not always get all 5. But, you should try because the thing is, it's easy to create to-do lists and do a whole bunch of things that don't push you towards your goals. Make sure you have at least 5 things every week that will push you to your intermediate goals. And then you prioritize that by going, okay, what am I lagging behind in? Or what am I trying to get ready for? So if I'm getting ready for a big Facebook ad specific posting, maybe I'm either paying someone or I'm working on content for the ad. That would be an action item towards my goal, something that will move me towards my ultimate goal of the year.
Right. And once you get your list of goals, what you should do is you should sort that list from soonest completion date, right, to latest completion date. Because what happens sometimes is like we look at that full list and we forget about the dates. And you might have that like, hey, I'm going to run, a major Facebook ad campaign to push my product that I want to sell 1,000 copies of in March. But if you don't resort all your goals so that that is the first goal at the top of the list, you might it might get buried. Okay. So
until February 30th.
Right. Until it's a leap year, 2016.
Which takes it to 29.
Right. Which takes it to 29. Yes. But I was reminding people that it's a leap year. Not 30 days. No. So, resort that list. And then once you have the list, I want you to take it and I want you to post it somewhere where you're going to see it every day. So maybe you make, maybe you take a screenshot of it and you make it your wallpaper on your phone. Okay. So you could make it wallpaper on your phone. You can print out a copy, tape it to the wall by your desk. Okay. You can make it the wallpaper on your laptop.
Make it, if it's no personally identifiable information, make it your Facebook header.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
So when you go into Facebook, it's the first thing you see before you scroll down into your newsfeed.
See, the problem with that though is that I don't see my header because I don't go to my wall. Like your wallpaper doesn't show up in your news feed.
It shows how much I actually go into. You're right. It doesn't. It just shows the news feed.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
And if you're one of those news feed problematic people where you spend way too much time spying on other people or looking for cute kitten videos, which could be a goal. If it's something that you think is one of your problems, there is software actually out there that will strip the newsfeed from Facebook.
Yeah.
Delete Facebook off of your phone if it's that much of a problem. Unless that's what you want your goal to be, is to view 10,000 cat videos next year. And you're on your path to achieving that, but it's interfering with your other goals.
Well, and I would argue, okay, you want to view 10,000 cat videos on Facebook. Why?
It could be a personal goal.
Why?
Because they like cats and cat videos are cute.
That doesn't fall under the self-care category.
Honey, happiness makes people live longer.
Actually, that's not true.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So make sure that list is visible so that you see it all the time. If you use something like Nosby, right, for your task list, I would actually create something that sits in your next actions list that is your list of your goals, so that you can look at it whenever you need to. Because when you set goals, if you just write them down and then you never look at them again, the likelihood that you're going to achieve them is not very good. So you want to make sure that they are front and center all the time.
Print them out, put them behind your monitor. If you use your desktop a lot, you could print them out, tape them to the top of your laptop if you use a laptop a lot. There's always a way to get them in front of you.
Right.
Now, it's different if you're trying to avoid them.
Yes. Once you have your goals, then, as Jeff was talking about before, every week you need to come up with a list of things that you are going to do that week that are going to help you achieve those goals. And
now there are always going to be to-do items that are going to come up that you really do have to get done, but they're not going to be an action to get you towards your goals. You still have to get those done. Make sure you always have at least one action item per goal. And maybe if you're getting close to one deadline, maybe say you have 3 business goals, maybe all 3 are really towards the next actual item, but at least have one per goal, one action item per goal to get you to your goals.
As you're going through and you're creating your to-do list for the week, which this is something that I typically do on Sunday nights, I will always ask myself, again, like we did when we're goal setting, why am I adding this to my list?
Yeah.
Is this adding value to my business, or is this busy work that I'm doing?
It's like when I work on projects at work, I will have a sentence that sums up the point of the system. And whenever I get requests from users, which always happens, especially the more users, the more likely this is to happen, as I look back at that sentence and I go, do these things compute? If I do this, does this help get me to the sentence? And if it does not, it's not going to get me towards the goal of that system.
Right. So I think if you treat your goals like your mission statement of the year, then when you're adding things to your to-do list, you can really think about whether or not these items will actually add value to what you're trying to accomplish for the year. So if you think about it that way, that can really help. I know that if you've listened to all 3 episodes, you're probably in the mindset that you're going to create goals. But if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not sure how this is going to get me where I want to go, there was an interesting article in Inc. magazine that said 80% of all small businesses do not create goals. If you tie that to the statistic that 85% of all small businesses fail within their first 5 years, there seems to be a large correlation between small business owners not creating goals and failing in their businesses. Well, there are many other reasons why small businesses fail, including things like cash flow management, not having a vision, not having goals is really hurting small businesses. And so I don't want you to be one of those small businesses. I want you to be a small business that thrives and grows and has goals and knows where they're going. So keep that in mind if you're kind of unsure about whether or not, this goal setting thing is the right thing for you. Goals don't have to be rigid. They're guidelines. They're things to help push you forward into the new year. And if you get stuck mid-year, then go through the process again. This doesn't have to be something that you only do once a year. You should be constantly looking at your goals, making sure they're still valid, and making sure that they're still what's going to drive your business forward. When we did our goals in 2015, we found that by mid-year, a lot of our goals didn't really apply to where we wanted to go. So we actually started revamping our goals. This podcast was not a goal for 2015. And about mid-year, we did some additional planning and we decided, you know what? I think a podcast would be a really good fit for where we want to go with the business. And so in September, we launched this podcast. And it wouldn't be nearly as successful if it weren't for all of you. So, at this holiday season, this is the last episode for 2015. I want to thank you so much for rating and reviewing the podcast, sharing it out with your friends, telling people about it. I said earlier that I'm really bad at promoting myself, but you guys have really stepped up to the plate and helped me do that. And you've inspired me to work on that for 2016. So I hope you guys have a great holiday. I hope you have a happy new year. And I can't wait to get back with you in 2016 and help you grow your business. So thank you so much. And we'll see you in 2016. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.